Big 550 KTRS every Tuesday and Thursday. Tony Messenger joins us, St. Louis Post-Dispatch columnist. Tony, say hi to Wendy Weiss.
Hi, Wendy. How are you?
Hi, Tony. I'm fine. How are you? See?
McGraw, how you doing?
We're doing good. So we were talking to one of your colleagues, Jacob Barker, the business reporter who's following this Paul McKee, Bank of Washington, mapping agency, St. Louis City controversy. It's awful convoluted. I still don't quite exactly know what's going on, and I don't know what the end game is, and I don't know whose ox is trying to get gored.
Well, it's hard to say. Here's the one thing I'm pretty sure I know. There are forces working behind the scenes, whispering in the city's ear, saying, "We want that property. Let's go get that property." Now that NGA is coming, that property is worth something. McKee is weakened. He doesn't have enough money. Let's go get him, and let's go get that property. I think that's what's going on in the city cases as much as anything else. And we won't really know the end game until the city, if it successfully takes away Mr. McKee's development rights and doesn't end up having to pay a whole lot of money to the Bank of Washington for violating its agreements with that bank, then let's see who they start to offer development rights to in whatever their new deal is, and see who shows up at that point. I think that's sort of what I'm watching to see what the end game is. But the concern I have is for sort of the long-term viability of the city. Is this actually an attempt by the city to get the north side finally developed and paid attention to, or is this yet another sort of end-around game to get people's attention off the north side and shift some more resources into the central corridor? I don't know. You got 3 court cases right now, all of which probably will end up at the appeals court. This is going to be going on for a while.
What's so confusing about this is the land is already cleared. The federal government already said we want to build it here. I don't understand what the argument is over the land now.
Well, to me, here's how convoluted it is, and I don't know if Jacob has researched this and determined if it's ever happened anywhere in the country before. But the city of St. Louis basically just sought eminent domain against itself.
Wow.
That's basically what happened in order to protect itself against a claim that a banker has in a court in Franklin County in which that banker is accusing the city of fraud. And here's the thing where I get really interested. The reason that banker is accusing the city of fraud is related to the soccer stadium. Because if you remember, when the previous iteration of the soccer stadium came in, at the same property where they're talking about potentially building a new soccer stadium right now, that property is in the McKee North Side regeneration footprint. And so if it's going to be developed in that footprint, under current law, that some of that tax revenue is going to go into the north side to benefit the north side. The previous soccer developer said, whoa, wait a minute. We need that money. And so the city went to McKee and Bank of Washington and said, we want to redo our agreement. We want you guys to agree to give us something in exchange for making sure that we can get this soccer stadium. And McKee and the bank said, okay, we'll redo our agreement one more time. We'll give you some revenue. You give us some consideration. Then that soccer deal didn't go through. And the city basically said, yeah, remember that agreement we came up with? Yeah, we're not going to pay attention to that anymore. Now there's a new soccer stadium coming into the same property, but what has the city done before that proposal took place? The city basically said to Paul McKee, you're in default. So you no longer have development rights, so we don't have to negotiate with you. What I wonder, what I suspect, and I don't know this, but what I suspect is that the attempt to get McKee and Bank of Washington out of the way has as much to do with the soccer stadium as it does NGA. Because NGA is coming. NGA is here. There are 10 different ways the city could have taken care of making sure that NGA got its land free and clear. They could have bonded it. They could have done what we do when we buy houses, and we go to the title company, and the title company does all these searches to make sure there's no liens. And sometimes you have to, bond a little bit of money, put some money in the title insurance to make sure that it protects the new owner in case some old lien comes up. There are a million things that the city could have done short of eminent domaining itself. That's why I believe that the attempt to get McKee and Bank of Washington, the Echo Camps, out of the way has as much to do with the new soccer stadium as it does the NGA.
I want to go back to what you said about they're invoking eminent domain on themselves. The land is already cleared. You're saying the argument now is who has the rights, McKee or the city? If McKee has the rights, they've already agreed to eminent domain. But if they own it, they still have rights to the eminent domain. So that's where they can call eminent domain on land they already own.
Right, but the city's playing a semantic game. What the city is saying is all of these various city entities, the LCRA, the LCRAH, the various bodies that do economic development on behalf of the city, what the city is arguing is those aren't actual city entities. We created them. They're fully funded and paid for by city tax dollars and everything else. But what the city is saying is LCRA owns the land, not us. So we're taking it from them. We're eminent domaining them. But they're all in the game together. I mean, it's the city eminent domaining itself. That's ultimately what's happening here. And so far, circuit judges have said, fine, no problem, you win. We'll see what happens when those cases go to the appeals court. The Echo Camps say they're going to appeal. They won a round in Franklin County. The city tried to stop the Franklin County suit, and the appeals court said, no, it can go forward. And so, got all these court cases. In the end, I think ultimately the appeals court or the Missouri Supreme Court is going to make a decision, and I don't think it's going to get in the way of NGA. I think that was always a straw man put out there by the city to help its public relations effort against McKee. NGA is coming. NGA is going to get done. This is just a matter of whether or not the city ends up paying the Bank of Washington for violating its previous agreements that the Bank of Washington says it had with the city.
Right. So this isn't the little old lady who has the house that's sitting on home plate that won't sell for the betterment of the stadium. But this is an argument over the land is already planned and developed. The argument is who owns it. So that if it turns out McKee still has the rights, somebody's got to pay McKee. Is that right? And if the city owns it, then somebody has to pay the city for the rights?
It's really the Bank of Washington because they have all the liens.
Right.
McKee doesn't have enough money in the property right now. It's the Bank of Washington. So what you really have is you have an argument between wealthy, powerful people over who gets to profit now that the NGA has come to town.
Right.
Is it McKee and Bank of Washington who took the risk and more than anybody else brought NGA to town, or is it whoever the city chooses as the next developer to come in line and take over development rights? That's what this is about, and I don't know who that next developer is yet. But that's what this is about.
Tony, is this common? I mean, when you talk about economic development in major metropolitan areas, is this kind of thing common or?
I've never heard of it.
Okay.
And I'm not an expert in what happens in other cities other than what I've written about previously as a journalist. But I've never heard of a city eminent domaining itself. And this is the city going to war with the bank that, by the way, is developing and lending other projects in the city.
Exactly.
What some of the people that I've talked to tell me is this is really worrisome for the future of the city doing development, except for those people that are favored in the eyes of city city leaders, at least for the period of time in which those particular city leaders are in power. Because you've got a bank that's financing a major project in Dogtown right now that that bank is accusing the city of fraud and saying we had an agreement with you and you broke that agreement. And there are 3 legal cases about it now. That's not unheard of. Developers and cities, go to court for a variety of reasons. But this is about somebody trying to take advantage of the NGA coming to town, because that property on the north side now, for the first time in a generation, has real potential value, and somebody is going to make a lot of money off of it. And that's great, whoever that person is, or people or entities or whatever, because that means that there's going to be development on the north side that's been ignored for so long. This is a fight over who makes that money.
We'll leave it there, but really interesting. To be continued. Tony Messenger with us every Tuesday and Thursday. Thanks, Tony. Good stuff.
Good to talk to you.
All right.